You see, white feminists don't understand why many black men have a problem with them, and why many black men in particular have a problem with Democrats, and why many black men have a problem with feminism. It's not that we just dislike feminism, it's that you, for some reason, project what you see with white men onto black men. Prime example, right? You have people during the whole Jeffrey Dahmer fiasco making Halloween costumes and making light of the whole situation, and that was sick. That was twisted. That was demented, and people had no issue with that. You saw it all over TikTok. You saw it all Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. And I wish someone would play dumb because I saw it and I was very upset by it. It was very insensitive. Yet, no one was canceled for that. No one lost their jobs. No one found themselves being the center of controversy. You saw celebrities doing that stuff. You saw celebrities standing up and clapping for Roman Polanski. White celebrities like Meryl Streep. They ain't canceled. But when Kyrie Irving makes a tweet, that's when you want to cancel people. You know, people had no issue with Eminem saying on some of the worst, most twisted lyrics you could think of. There's a song called Criminal. Go listen to that song and compare it to today's standards. There's a song called Guilty Conscience. There's a second stanza there about a young girl. Go listen to that and then tell me that Kyrie Irving should have ever been canceled if Eminem can freely make money off of those records to this very day. It was a retweet. But that goes back to the overall point. The overall point is that when you say all men, you don't take into account that all men are not in the same situation. Like, for example, when you say all men, but you know good and well that Karens exist, white feminists, a lot of them actually, believe it or not. I live in Washington State. I've seen some of the so-called allies. There's content showing the so-called allies how they actually treat black people. Yeah. See, a lot of you try to pull that wool over black people's eyes. I'm from the deep south and I came over to the north. See, a lot of black folks here, they ain't seen a lot of stuff in the deep south. Many black folks, even though there's sundown towns right here in Washington State, many of them haven't even seen one. So a lot of things that would pull the wool over their eyes doesn't work on me. It just rolls right off me. But the overall point is that you are seem to missing is that we are not in the same situation. Like, for example, if I were to say that there's a problem with family court and there's a bunch of women out there taking advantage of men out there, I wouldn't say all women because I realize that not all women are in the same situation. For example, if I were to look at criminal justice reform, I wouldn't then go and try to reform things the same for white people as I would for black people, because when you look at the Innocence Project, you actually look at their actual numbers, what you'll find is that the vast majority of people who are exonerated just disproportionately are black people. That fact alone makes your entire statement invalid. If you understand that as a white person or a white passing person or a non-black man in general, if you know that if we were to go to court, we'd be treated vastly different. If you understand that, then that statement is invalid. And also, statements like that don't take into account intersectionality, which people are trying to sell me on, and yet the very people who are trying to sell me on it don't seem to adhere to it. Prime example, do you know my whole backstory? You say all men. Interesting. Do you know my backstory? Here, let me tell you what it takes to create an internationally known activist who goes against cops. Let me tell you what it takes. I started out in South Carolina, and I'm a victim of a very horrible crime perpetrated by my older brother, who became a high school principal in South Carolina to this very day. The sheriff who covered it up as a child, covered it up when I was an adult when I tried to re-report it, Leon Lott in South Carolina. I went into law enforcement to try to become the hero that nobody ever was for me. In fact, if you look at most of my career paths, you'll find that most of them were the stereotypical hero work, like soldier, correctional officer, all American stuff. And I was doing that as a sense of trying to become a hero that nobody ever was for me. And do you want to know why that was? Because I was a victim of a crime that nobody believed me. Nobody believed me. When I became an adult, I lived in this place called Columbia, South Carolina, in Northeast Columbia. And also in Northeast Columbia, Leon Lott covered up what happened to 8 high school girls that was perpetrated by his own sheriff's deputy. Then I met a woman named Brenda Bryant. Same thing happened to her daughter. And there's a South Carolina Supreme Court case known as Madison Bryant v. Babcock Center that is linked to that. He covered it all up. Every time the state of South Carolina faces any kind of liability, he will do that so that his sheriff's department and also the state faces no liability, and also so that he doesn't have to actually do any kind of work. Now, all that sounds unbelievable until you go and Google it and you see, yeah, it's true. It's actually true. And you know, while you're saying all men, here's my story. Richland County Sheriff. You remember the one that I was just talking about? Well, it happened to other people. And he was covering up what happened to high school girls for 9 years at Spring Valley High School in Northeast Columbia in South Carolina. And let me show you the reason why I became acabdevil, why I went so hard at the police, as hard as I could. So as you can see, my old home address in South Carolina was 205 Old Brass Drive. Spring Valley High School was a 7-minute drive. So suppose you're me and that happened to you and it was covered up, and you find out that it happened to other high school girls and it was covered up as well by the exact same sheriff. What would go through your mind? What would happen to you? How would it affect you for the rest of your life? Knowing that you could have stopped this man by doing whatever it took. And I mean that in every way. And you didn't do it. How would you feel? When people say all men, when you're fighting a battle that they most likely don't even know about, how would you feel? What would go through your mind? Especially if it happened to be a non-black person, knowing that as I'm fighting this battle, I'm putting my life in danger. And oh, by the way, ally, you know the reason why Democrats won't do anything about this sheriff, even though this sheriff won 2021 Sheriff of the Year for the entire country? Do you know the reason why they won't do anything? He's a Democrat. He ran as a Democrat back in '96, and he still identifies as a Democrat to this very day. That's why nothing happens to Leon Lott. But you want to tell me all men? Before I get to hear all men, you fight this battle. I will drop everything that I'm doing, and you take up the mantle, and you work just as hard as me. That's the only way you get to have an opinion. Before you get defensive, read this whole thing here. Read it. I want you to see this. I want you to read this and ask yourself, how long have I been fighting this battle that you didn't even know about? And don't say that you suddenly knew about it, because most people don't. You want to know how I know most people don't? It's because I work in the media, and I understand that when this story was first released, the story about him winning 2021 Sheriff of the Year, that came out simultaneously, and that was designed so that it would be covered up. It would be buried. That's why you as a person didn't hear that back in 2021, that the 2021 Sheriff of the Year did something like this, and he was involved in something like this, and he lost almost every lawsuit involved in this. So before you say, well, just take him to court, people have already done that. Brenda Bryant did when her daughter was essayed by multiple men. She was shouting no the whole time. And Leon Lott told Brenda Bryant, Stephanie Bryant's mother, that she was a fully competent mentally disabled woman. The South Carolina Supreme Court ruled that Stephanie Bryant had the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old, somebody who's darn near Down syndrome. And she was shouting no the whole time. These are the people that I fight for. These are the men that I fight against. So before you say all men, understand that not all men start off in the same position, especially not as compared to someone that looks like you and looks like me. Thank you very much.